No, yeah. So it shattered my nose. I had to go in and have surgery 2 days ago.
Oh,
So yeah, the doctor said it was like eggshells in there when he was moving it back. And
wow, bro.
so I have to give, as soon as we're done with this, I gotta change into my, regular person clothes and give presentations for about 3 or 4 hours today with a bunch of my employees in this town here in the city. So
That's amazing.
yeah, yeah.
So this is normal you, and then you dress up as a poser. You're a poser in the work
Exactly.
world. Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah.
I throw on, the collared shirt, and Jesse's the same way. My co-host, when he shows up, he works in tech and he mostly works from home. So, but yeah, every once in a while we talk about, how we have to go to meetings. And
That's awesome.
so,
So cool.
but
Well,
yeah,
that's great that you have that you can do both, man.
it works out. I am very grateful for it. Don't get me wrong. Like, I will say it ranges from like super boring on any given day to like suddenly there's just like everything's falling apart, panic, like extreme anxiety. So
What are you gonna do
Jesse,
with this guy, Jesse?
are
He's all busted up, man.
I know. I was not expecting that when I turned on this video call just to see the nose bandage.
I actually needed that. I needed to see that you guys were the real deal,
That's
and now
right.
I know. Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
right. There's no video footage. I've been waiting. I've been like, sifting through footage of that show to see if anybody caught it, because I guess anybody really could call me a poser. It'd be like, whatever, this guy just put bandages on his nose.
Yeah, that would be you going to great lengths to try to
That
prove
would be pretty extreme. You can't really
plus you have
fake
the black eyes.
the eyes. Yeah, the eyes are what sells it. So,
Wow, dude.
Yeah,
That is
just
so
gnarly.
crazy.
Jesse, are we both wearing terror hoodies today?
Oh no, we can't be matching.
Yeah, Jonathan, sorry, we didn't tell you the memo for that.
I didn't put mine on. Yeah.
Sorry, we're dropping the ball. It's
It's all
terror hoodie Friday, I guess.
yeah, that's good.
That's right. We only wear black on Fridays.
That's right. That's right. We're mourning the work week. We just miss working so much. Yeah.
All right.
Awesome. Well, I guess we can officially kick things off here. Welcome to the Dads Who Mosh podcast.
Ready.
I am joined here as always by my co-host and co-terror hoodie wearer, Jesse.
That's right.
And we are joined today by the one and only Jonathan Kindler. Jonathan, do you go by Jonathan or do you go by John? I should ask.
It just depends on who you are, but
Okay.
I'm down for whatever. Yeah.
Gotcha.
I was actually curious. Or do you just go by the KC Wolf?
or KC Wolf.
I go by that. I just just get my attention. I'll be there.
That's right. We'll just start waving and shouting, any name that we may know you by.
Yes.
For anybody listening or watching, I meant to bring it along with me. A while back, Jesse and I were talking about records and the whole the whole fad of buying vinyl and stuff like that. And I was telling him how for a while I was buying vinyl without even having a record player. I just I was getting into it. The very first record, if you will indulge a moment of fandom, the very first record I bought was Long Live by the Chariot. And it's you upside down on a stage with your legs in the air playing the bass guitar. And that just I moved it from like office to office. It was just on display. I didn't actually play it on a record player. I listened to it, of course, the CD, but that was the first record I had. So, you've got
amazing.
a little piece, in the foundational moments of my collection.
That's a good piece of history. I'm not able to go upside down anymore. So it's nice to have that recorded that I was at one point upside down.
That's right.
I'm at an age where being upside down is not as accessible. But.
That's true. It's true. If we're upside down at this stage of our life, we're in trouble. I would say it's not a good thing.
I remember in the 90s, it's so funny you talking about buying a vinyl. I went to a Blind Side show and went to the table, and there's this, of course, this Swedish dude that hardly spoke any English selling their merch. And I think I was in middle school. It was like one of my first shows, and that I thought I was buying a CD, and I bought the vinyl, and I didn't even know, this is embarrassing. I didn't even know what it was, but as I opened it, I was like, I don't know what this is. I don't know what this is.
Is
And
this a Swedish CD?
yeah, I didn't. Yeah, it's so embarrassing. And then but I took it back to him.
Oh
I
no.
wished
Oh
so
no.
bad I wish I had that little took it back, don't have it.
Wow.
But yeah, it was an embarrassing moment. The guy just kind of looked at me like, okay,
Is this wow.
yeah. So
This that would have been, what was that? The Silence Era? Was that the name of that album that
I,
came out?
it was yeah, that was the tour they were on. Yeah.
Okay, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, Jonathan, for anybody that's listening or watching that is not, aware, Jonathan played bass guitar for the Chariot for a number of years, recorded a couple of albums with them. I know we kind of gave you a heads up on a few things, but here at the Dads Who Mosh, we like to talk about music, we like to talk about moshing, we like to talk about the hardcore scene, but we like to talk about being dads. We like, the whole idea of dads who mosh is not just dads that jump into pits and get their noses smashed and stuff like that, but it's, dads who, moshing takes a certain amount of effort and it requires you to go all in. So that's kind of the idea, as dads as well. We want to go all in. So, we'd love to talk about music stuff, dad stuff. But if you don't mind, just kicking things off with the music side of things. I know you've been out of the music game, for a while and doing
A
some
little bit.
other things, which we'll talk about a bit, but let me pull up, we've got some questions here, just, I guess, just, starting off, obviously, the Chariot was very well known for their live shows. It wasn't even just, I don't even think you could classify it as just pure moshing. It was just pure chaos. So any stories that stick out in your mind that you can regale us with just, crazy show stories? Yeah, anything
Yeah.
that sticks out in your mind from your days in the Chariot.
Man, well, we lived our life was ridiculous on and off stage, which was a lot of fun. Um, we never really knew what we were gonna get ourselves into, and we were big enough to where we could go everywhere, but we didn't go anywhere well, right? Like it was
Yeah.
kind of just we were falling apart everywhere we showed up, And when you're jumping around and carrying on like we were doing, all your stuff's falling apart, and there's just
Yep.
always a wild experience in that regard. That even got more intense as you go overseas, just because
Yeah.
culturally things are crazy. Travel is just hard on you and equipment, and for a lot of years we weren't traveling in buses. We're just like in vans, staying in
Yeah.
people's houses. Um, you know, n a lot of language barriers and things like that that make it a lot of fun and
Yeah.
interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, I bet.
Uh, One time that this isn't on stage, but we pulled over at like a rest stop to go to the bathroom, and this was before we, like, had cell phones that worked in other parts of the
Yeah.
world, and we all got out and went to the bathroom, and we were actually on a bus at this point, but, me and our drummer came back out, and the bus was gone. Gone. They left us. We didn't have our phones. We were in basically our underwear. There was this lady at this little, like, cafe counter who,
Yeah.
like, realized what had happened. She did not speak any English, and we were there for hours. They didn't know we were
Amazing.
missing.
Amazing.
And, that's just an example of how things rolled, but we finally were able to borrow this lady's phone. We called somebody back home who then tweeted to the band that then that's how they found out that we were missing, and then it was like a 6-hour, like, thing where they had to come back and get us. So just
Was
constantly a mess. It was just a mess.
was the rest of the band on the bus and they were just like,
Yeah, well,
I'm
everybody
sure
just
they're
went back to
fine.
their bunk and went to bed,
Yeah.
and they woke up in the morning and somebody, like, checked, like, maybe they stopped and had Wi-Fi somewhere and realized,
Yeah.
"Oh, they're not
Yeah.
just asleep." Um,
That's great.
Ridiculous. But,
What
as
year was
far as
that too?
what's that?
What year was that?
That
I'm
would have
trying to, like,
probably
imagine,
been
like, did you have cell phones? You know, because there's
it was
like, it's changed so much from then of, like, how you get a hold of people, how do you, like, in emergency situations.
it was probably, like, 2008 or 9. It was like Twitter
Yeah.
had just started happening.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was like but, I mean, when you would tour then, I don't know what it's like now, but I've been overseas for some mission trips and things, but you have your phone on, and it's like
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah.
exactly,
Taylor's like, "Well,
exactly.
this is useless now because it costs millions of dollars to
Right.
send a text message from somewhere else," so,
Totally.
yeah. But the shows were always wild, and a blast. I mean, one of the best shows I actually have a picture of it on my wall over here, a kid at the show, it was sent me this photo, but it was in Perth, Australia, and
Yes.
it's great because it's gone viral. It
Yep.
went viral online the day that it happened, but, essentially, we played, this kind of like I don't know, like a just like a cafe place or whatever, and stuff got knocked over. It was a glass bowl of pears. This guy had some fruit sitting in the
Not
cafe.
the pears.
The pears. Yeah, and so that got knocked over. He shut the power down. Some kid in the crowd's like, "Come play at our house," and so
Yep.
we did, and, which was just insane and an absolute blast, and then,
Yes.
that was in Perth, Australia, and then the next day we had a day off, and we're gonna be playing in Brisbane in the next day, and, the video had gone so viral that the people who were running the show in Brisbane canceled the show
Oh,
because
no.
they didn't want us to bring that to them. So then it got
Oh,
moved to just this warehouse, like this
yeah.
big room, and then that was crazy. The whole Australian leg of that trip was just out of control because of that video, but just an
Amazing.
Yeah.
absolute blast.
I had this exact moment written down because I've
Yep.
watched that Perth video like 100 times myself. It's like,
Yep.
as you know, I think back to junior high Jesse, and it's just like that's like the coolest thing ever. But now, as a father, I watch that video and I have so many different questions. The first
Mhm.
of which is, are you guys playing at like 10 a.m.? Like, because you're playing in this like venue. It looks dark, like a regular show, looks like a night show. And then this
Yeah,
random door opens and there's people just in line for coffee, like older
yeah,
people.
Yeah.
yeah.
And so like it's
It
gotta be
was
like
weird.
10 a.m.
It was like in the afternoon. It was very strange
Yeah.
and not hardcore at all. Like, yeah, like there's people just enjoying coffee like 10 feet on the other side of this wall.
Trying
Yeah,
to
Um,
eat
which
pears.
which is then my other question is like, who is who's sitting there having coffee like right next to this like hardcore show?
it's so
You
strange. Yeah, it was like the place was kinda like a YMCA type thing, but when you're,
okay.
it's like, "Okay, we're here, so
Yeah,
this is
yeah,
the first
totally.
show
Yep.
we've ever played in Australia, so I guess this is what they do here," I don't
This is the
Yeah,
shows are at
yeah.
2 in the afternoon. There's coffee
Yeah.
and pears, and
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
great. I
Well,
love it. That
and then as the video changes, you go to somebody's house, which is so awesome. It's so punk rock. But then now, okay, my dad questions come in like, who's letting this band come in and play on their roof in their house? Like, was the house okay afterwards?
Yeah, those are the same questions I have now as a dad. I'm like, "What were we thinking?" And,
Yeah.
like and then as I've rewatched it, I'm like so at one point, Josh, our singer, and I were on the roof, and then kids start getting on the roof,
Yeah.
and I'm watching this going, "Oh, this is unsafe,"
Yeah,
We should
exactly.
Yeah. Yeah.
and that it was a metal roof, and so it was flexing. I remember it was like, "This is kinda crazy," but that was often the case where
Yeah.
Yeah.
we don't really think you don't really think too much in the moment. You just kinda wing it and see what happens, and it's either going to be miraculous how something happens or it's gonna be a train wreck, and both of those situations are fun to watch, so
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
I think it worked out either way for us.
Yeah. Absolutely. Um, so obviously, the Chariot has, parted ways. No longer. I know a bunch of, other guys in the band are doing have other music projects. We'd love to hear just a little bit about, what you've kind of transitioned to, Jonathan, family life, ministry life, work life, what it is that you're doing. Tell us a little bit about your family, and
Yeah.
about what you're doing now.
Man, yeah, so well, I when I was in the band, I was I loved the opportunity that it gave, and this kinda speaks to the culture of that, the scene, but there was so many opportunities to connect with people, and just the nature of the kind of music we were playing, and even just the era where YouTube was coming online, people really felt like they knew us, and so they're just, like,
Mhm.
sharing their soul with you at the end of the show, and so I loved
Yeah.
just sitting down on the front of the stage and just talking with people about what's going on in their life, and in those moments, I felt really thankful and also a bit at a loss,
Mm.
like, how can I help them? And as a Christian, it felt so awesome to get to tell people about what Jesus had done in my life, but then there's also just people talking about really heavy stuff, and
Yeah.
Mm.
long story short, over the course of a few just, profound moments, I was led to the idea of counseling, and it was a lot of what I was doing, but I just didn't have the language for it, and so, I remember we were on tour with Under Oath, and, I applied to, grad school, and Chris from Under Oath basically rewrote my thesis for me. I, like, gave it to him, he's like, "We're gonna have to change some things."
Yeah.
But I got
Nice.
into grad school thanks to Chris,
Yeah.
and so, we played our last tour. My last show was in the Ukraine. I flew from the Ukraine to Frankfurt, to Atlanta, to Kansas City, and got off the airplane and walked right into my first class, like, didn't even
Amazing.
go
Wow.
home into grad
Crazy.
school, which was just a crazy, like, you know,
Wow.
um, culture shock type thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh, but did grad school. I got my license, in counseling, and, um, over probably, I think 2015, or 16, I started my counseling practice, and I've been doing that. Met my wife. I had, like, a bunch of jobs when I was in grad school. One of them was serving hors d'oeuvres at this event space. My wife, was she sings, she still has an event band that she leads, and her band was playing the first night I served hors d'oeuvres, and so I served my wife an hors d'oeuvre, that's how I met her,
Wow.
which was super cool,
That is
That is
cool.
cool.
and, we've hung out every day since, and, yeah, we've been on a journey. There were some challenges early on in our marriage where we were hoping to have kids, and
Mm.
we kept, having miscarriages, and it was just super dark, and, like, we would get, for you know, somewhat far along in the pregnancy, and she would
Yeah.
miscarry. It was brutal, really, devastating,
Yeah.
and, we went on a missions trip to Costa Rica, and we were kind of in western Costa Rica, like, near the Nicaraguan border, and there's a lot of refugees in that area that were fleeing from Nicaragua, a lot of women and children, and all these kids without parents, without
Yeah.
dad, and,
Mhm.
that, and along with, my sister who, is does foster care. She just adopted her foster kids
Yeah.
pretty
That's amazing.
yeah. That was so they were my sister has, 4, kids that, she's been fostering for 8 years, which
Wow.
is crazy.
And
It
adopted all 4.
adopted all 4 of them.
Amazing. Yeah,
So,
that's
Yeah.
amazing.
anyway, so all that led to my wife and I doing foster care for a few years, which was incredible. The first placement that we had, um, was, amazing. We had her for a few years, and during that process, we figured out what was going on with pregnancy, and now we have 3 biological kids
Wow.
of our own, which has been amazing.
Yeah.
Um I guess I don't know, I could talk about my counseling practice. I also, got into, um, working at a Bible institute, and I teach all their counseling
That's
track
right.
stuff, and, have a podcast through that, and also I'm a pastor at my church, so that's
So
kind of
just, like, never slowing down, never
Yeah,
it's
I was
just
gonna say.
switching. I was gonna ask, like, what the transition from, being in a band full time and, touring the world and never sleeping, but I mean, like, if you
Mhm.
go from that to grad school and working multiple jobs and then having multiple kids and then having, doing I mean, it's just it's life is just always busy,
Yeah,
man.
dude.
Um,
I've taken a few jobs. I just retired from my longest running job last year. I was really sad, but the reason why I was named Wolf in the
that's right.
band is because I worked as a mascot that was a wolf,
Yep.
and so
Yes.
I had to let that go. It was just too much.
Man.
Um, but that's nice to have that off my plate. So I have
For sure.
jobs instead of a handful at this point. But
Yeah.
For sure, for sure. What I'm just because my story, we just my wife and I got married pretty young. We had kids pretty young. What was that experience like? I mean, I guess for you learning to be a father in like a foster situation. And then, are there things that changed once you came to a point where you were having biological children? What was kind of that journey like, learning to be a father that way?
I get emotional thinking about it.
Yeah.
Foster care is so heavy, dude,
Yeah.
because if you're gonna do it right, you have to love them as if they're yours,
Yeah.
and then you also have to keep at the forefront of your mind the fact that they're not
Yeah.
yours, you know?
Yeah.
And, um, and so it's just constantly ripping your heart out, and it's devastating. Every foster kid story is just so tragic.
Yeah.
It's not
Yeah.
it's not God's intent that we don't raise our own kids,
Yeah.
so it's devastating. It's also devastating because it's generational. It's like, you know, the 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 little girl that we fostered the longest, her mom aged out of the foster system.
Yeah. Sure.
You see this pattern playing out over time, and so it's just really, brutal and, also a blessing to get to love somebody
Yeah.
that way, and, the way our case ended with her was really hard, and I don't have any, um, bitterness or anything in that regard, but it's hard because, we kind of transitioned her back to her mom, and we're meeting with them at the park every month and hanging out, and then one day they just didn't show up, and then we never saw her again, never heard
Wow.
from her again, and we had her for almost 3 years, and it was the first 3 years of her life, so you know she's like my daughter, dude,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
before I had any kids, it was like she
Yeah.
made me a dad, and
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
then it feels like a death in a way.
Yeah.
It's I don't know where
Yeah.
she is, I don't know how she's doing, I think about her all the time. I wake up in the middle of the night thinking about her still,
Yeah.
and, so it's I haven't seen her in probably 3 or 4 years now, so
Yeah. Yeah.
wild.
Well, and just as a dad, and as a husband, sometimes, and maybe sometimes I just go too far down the rabbit hole when I think about these things. But being in these loving relationships, especially like when you choose, whether it's you choose to foster or adopt, or you choose to have biological children, you choose to start this family, that it all comes out of this place of love, but at the same time, like, it also opens up all of these doors of possibilities for hurt, for loss, and it's just sometimes to me, and I, like I said, maybe I think about it too deeply, but it's like, it's crazy to me that, we're so willing, I think sometimes, to accept the hurt that comes with the love that,
Mm.
is part of being a family. And it's just, I don't know, sometimes it's just a crazy thing to me to think like, man, I have 2 boys that I love with all of my heart. I've got this wife that I love with all of my heart, and it's like, and every single day there's a chance that like something could happen, or one day they grow up and move away, and you just, put yourself through this tremendous heartbreak, and yet it's
Mhm.
still worth it. It's still worth it at the end of the day to
Oh, dude,
experience that love and that family and that relationship.
man. Yeah, as you were saying, I was thinking, like, my wife often has to anchor me a little bit 'cause, the work that I do, so
Sure.
I sit with people every day, and the nature of counseling is you often talk to people about their worst moments, and, whether and I don't work with kids, but I work with a lot of people who had problems when they were kids, just
Yeah.
went through trauma, and man, the vicarious trauma, that's how they
Yeah.
describe it. It's like just being in proximity to so much pain,
Yeah,
it starts to, like, you know, permeate into you, to where it's like,
sure.
I'll see something that, happens in real time with my family, and my mind immediately goes to these, like, places where I've talked with people who are, just completely broken from something that
Yeah,
happened, and it is hard not to, like, spend you find yourself spending time in those thoughts, and then it can it can do a lot of damage and make it difficult for you to show up for your family, your wife,
yeah,
and your kids the way that, you'd like to. So, I feel that
yeah,
big time.
yeah.
The part about parenting that's so challenging, I mean, it's incredible, but it's revealing, it exposes the parts of you that suck so bad,
Absolutely.
and,
Yep.
there's just, like, daily where I'm just like, "Oh, dude," like, my prayer all the time is like, you know, I know that as a father, my job is to picture the heavenly Father, and I just see so clearly how bad I am at doing
Yeah,
that,
yeah,
and I just am always needing to ask for forgiveness, from my kids, for
yeah,
dad not showing up the right way, and,
yeah.
um, I do think that it's what I think is really powerful about the opportunity, to be a dad is just the reality that it's not so much about being constant, but just being consistent for them,
Mm,
and something I think about a lot with people, and that there's a lot of pressure to get it right. You don't wanna mess them up, and
yeah, yeah.
mm, but I think, I've learned this from therapy, like working with people in a counseling setting. One of the most effective things that I can do in a counseling relationship is actually fail my client, and which sounds counterintuitive, but it's really powerful because when I fail them, it gives us an opportunity to repair the
Mm,
relationship, which then models how healthy relationships should be, you know?
it's really interesting, yeah.
It
Huh.
is, it's so cool though because it's like a lot of times parents try to get it right, and maybe they do, or they at least present themselves to their kids like they have it figured out, but that actually puts a lot of pressure on the kid
Mhm.
to
Yeah.
get it right, you know? And when I
Yeah.
can come to my boys, I have 2 boys, 6, 4, and then I have a little girl who's coming up on 2 years old. But when I can come to them and say, "Man, dad messed that up," you know,
Uh,
then it actually is a model for them to say, well, I can mess things up and I can also circle back around and fix it, you know?
Yeah.
And I have to keep reminding myself that as a dad. It's easier in a counseling relationship because I have less skin in the game, right? But
Sure, sure.
when it's my own son, like, I have to remind myself that this is actually good for them, that I don't always hit the mark.
Yeah, yeah. No, and that's good to hear, I think, from another dad, from somebody that is a professional counselor too, because the moments, like, even just, like, a week ago, 2 weeks ago, there was a moment where I was mad at something, I blew up about, something, and you look back on it, and it's so stupid. Um And I got angry, and then I had to go, like, locked myself in my closet to just, like, chill out, take some breaths, but then it's like, I feel like a little kid again when I have to, like, drag myself out and apologize to my kids. I feel so stupid, I feel so,
Mm,
like, it's such a humbling moment,
mm,
yeah, dude.
um, but I guess, yeah, my hope in all of that is just like, look, guys, like sometimes dad messes up. I don't want it to be an excuse. It wasn't okay what I did, but I just want you guys to know that I'm sorry. And dude, I hate even just like saying it right now because
Uh,
I hate all the feelings, right? It's like I hate letting them down. I hate the fact that I even lost my temper in the first place. I hate that I have to go apologize, but um, yeah, I think it's good to know that I think that's, that it's a healthy thing to be able to do that for sure.
Absolutely. Man, yeah, and
yeah.
that is totally, a reoccurring feeling I have of just like, "Oh my god." The last thing you want to do is fail them, and
Yeah,
it feels brutal. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. Um, I wanted to go back just a tiny little bit to something that jumped out at me. You you were talking about when you were playing in the Chariot and how many people you had come up after the shows and just kinda, like, pour their heart out to you. And this is something I see at, like, every show, especially, like, Christian shows. I know this is something, I was reading in, Jake's book from August Burns Red, who's also, like, really involved with heart support now. And one of the things that got him into that was the amount of people that came to the merch table and were just, like, pouring out, like, the heaviest, darkest things to him. And so I could see how that, like, transition from you playing and just hearing people all day, like, would lead right into that. So
Totally.
that was a very long-winded way of getting to my question, which was, it's kind of like a joke or a meme right now on the internet of, "Oh, I don't need counseling, I just need a concert." And you see these videos and I'm totally guilty. I say it all the time. It's like, because I go to these shows and I feel this sense of like everything's gonna be okay. I get out the stuff I'm holding in by getting in the mosh pit and not getting my nose broke, but, like, getting really close to it,
Yeah.
and, like, hanging out with these, 5,000 strangers and bumping into them, and there's, like, something very cathartic about that. So, I guess, like, the root of the question is, l I mean, maybe it's kinda two-part, is, like, why does that make us feel better? And is it enough? Is it really enough, or, is there, like, something else that, like, you should, like, seek counseling for that?
Yeah, man. Well, I know that feeling. That's probably when I think I loved my time touring. I'm so thankful I got to do it. I love going to shows still.
Yeah.
But the thing that I missed the most was like this daily outpouring physically. And
Yeah.
there is a lot of neuroscience, honestly, behind why that is
Mm.
so uh, comforting and relieving and uh, neurologically really healthy, right? Because there's our emotions or what's happening in our body are kind of like gauges. If you think about like gauges on the dash of your car, even, right? So you're driving down the road and something pops up on your dash. And if you know what it is, it can be really helpful. But if you don't know what it is, it immediately produces anxiety. What's that? What's that little symbol mean right there? I don't know.
Yeah.
And if that happens a lot and your way of dealing with it is I don't know. And so I cover it up or I look away from it. Well, that creates a problem down the road, right? Like, if it was the gas gauge and you just ignored it, well, then you end up on the side of the road, right? That kinda thing.
Yeah.
So, in a similar way, we do that, a lot of times with our bodily gauges. We have all of these things God designed us to use to let us know what's happening in our body, and a lot of times we ignore those things. So you go to a concert, and when you just let yourself loose, right?
Yep.
And you cry out, right? That is a really biblical way of dealing with your emotions, and you see that all throughout Scripture. David in the whole book of Psalms is the pit, right? You're in the
Yeah.
pit.
Yeah.
He's
Yeah.
crying out and and so when you do that, there's a release that's happening mentally, emotionally, and neurologically. It's physically purging all of what's being built up inside you. There's a lot of research around the concept of bilateral stimulation. So just this movement, even
Mm.
moshing, like is like you're
Yeah.
moving your body bilaterally. And when you do that, it's releasing all of this tension that happens in your body, that happens in your limbic system, and so that's why it feels really good. But also, the main thing that is helpful with any type of, counseling-like conversation or relationship is that you're challenging lies that you've learned to believe, and so
Mm.
you don't necessarily unless you just go to, like, a For Today show or somewhere they're gonna just preach some kinda truth at you, right? Like, or they're
Yeah.
bringing something good. You often don't make that transformative step where
Mm.
you gain the insight that's needed. So, just in terms of the process of counseling, there's exploration, there's insight, and then there's the action stage, right? That's the whole arc of a good counseling relationship. And
Mm.
so if you don't explore and then gain insight and then find ways to practically apply that, then you just kinda get stuck in a loop,
Yeah.
right? So I think going to a show is great. I think it's something that people should be doing. It's like top-down work that we're
It's good
saying,
for
like,
your mental health,
it
is
is.
what I
Go for a
gathered.
walk,
Yeah.
go to a
Yeah.
show,
Yeah.
go do something for yourself that's life-bringing, but
Yeah.
also being able to get to the root issues of things and challenging the lies with what's true about who you are.
Yeah.
That's needed as well.
No,
Well,
that
and I
makes a lot
think
of sense.
yeah, and that's really good. I think that's really good advice, which is something I kinda wanted to ask you anyways. We really advocate for, especially guys, in general, but dads for sure, to talk to somebody. And if it needs to be somebody who's a professional, someone who's a professional, I think those 3 things are really important because just, as someone that has done therapy in the past, I remember I went through a certain period of time where I was dealing with a lot of anxiety and depression, and the anxiety is something that, I've dealt with for a long time now, but I remember I kinda hopped from therapist to therapist because, like, one guy was almost just like it was like this really kind grandfather who would just listen and was really encouraging, and that was good for a while, but then I was just like, "Okay, now I kinda need something." Like,
Mhm.
I don't need a pat on the back anymore, like, I need and then there was another guy, kind of, he dug in a little bit, but there still wasn't a lot of action, and I think that's just I think that's such a great point that, it's got yes, explore, yes, like really dig into some of those things and replace some of those lies. But then like, especially with guys, I think giving us an action item is so huge. I mean, that's like
Dude,
my downfall sometimes in arguments with my wife. Like she'll come to me with a problem, I'll come to her with a solution, and she doesn't even want a solution. But it's
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
we want to find solutions. We want to fight after
let's
something. We
fix
want to
this. Right.
yeah, exactly. So I
Yeah.
think finding somebody that gives you something to work on is really important, especially for guys.
Yeah,
For
totally,
sure.
bro. I mean, something I often think about is the only true therapy is exposure therapy. But what I mean by that is yeah, you have to explore, you have to understand what's not working, but then you have to actually take a risk, right? Like, you have to step into the thing that you didn't think you could do and
Yeah.
find out that you can. And we do this as dads all the time with our kids. It's like, recently I'm transitioning my younger son from his little, Strider bike, like the
Yeah,
what
yeah.
they call, like, the balance bike, to a
Yep,
real
Yeah.
bike.
yep.
And he has a lie that he believes, which is he can't
Mm,
pedal on his bike. That's a lie, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
And when he gets over it, the pedals are in the way because he's used to just being free to push himself along. And so he believes this lie. And so we understand, we explore. It's like, okay, so what are you afraid of? Well, I'm afraid that I'm not going to be able to pedal and I'm going to be focused on that. I'm going to fall down. And so we gain insight. I hold the bike. I show him how he can pedal. But then there has to be the exposure therapy. The fear is that he's going to fall down and then he's going to get really hurt and he's not going to be able to do it. But what we find is that he actually can, and he
yeah,
has to experience that, right?
yeah,
Not only that he
Mhm.
can pedal and do it, but that also when he falls down, it's like, "That sucked, but also I'm okay," right? Like,
yeah.
and
Did you
so
die? Yeah,
yeah, exposure therapy, and
Yeah.
then after, what do we do as dads? We're like, "Whoa, dude, you totally did that.
yeah,
You did that," and that's basically my job as a counselor. It's like, we figure something out and then I send them out to go and do it. It's like, bro, you got to do this now. It's going to be really
yeah,
hard. It's going to be uncomfortable because it's not familiar. And as humans, we don't do what's healthy for us. We do what's familiar to us. Right. And yet it's not working for you. So let's try this. And then they come back and they're like, I totally did it. And I'm like,
yeah,
whoa, you
yeah.
totally did it. Look, exposure therapy. Right.
Awesome.
The clinical world would describe it as a corrective emotional experience or a transformative experience, right?
Yeah,
Trying something you thought would go poorly, and in fact, it went well. Yeah,
yeah. Awesome.
yeah,
I love that.
It's good.
Um, would love to just hear a little bit more too, Jonathan, about Sound Mind. All of this has kind of led to what you're doing with Sound Mind. Would love to hear a little bit about the podcast, how that's been going,
yeah.
what the goal is. Yeah, just would love to have you give a shout out for the podcast for sure.
Yeah, dude. So first of all, completed my first year of weekly,
Amazing.
episodes, which was brutal. I don't know if you
Yeah.
guys know about having a podcast, but it's cra
Yeah.
yeah,
That's awesome.
it's a lot of work. It's been a lot of fun.
Yeah.
There was, it kind of it's a bridge between my worlds. So my counseling practice is called Sound Mind. I also work at this Bible Institute, and I did a guest spot on their main podcast. It's called The Postscript. Super awesome conversations with pastors and missionaries about biblical theological topics. But
Yeah.
I did a whole guest series on grief, 9 episodes over
Wow.
there, and it was such a blast, and it went really well, and, my friend, his name's Brandon, who's the host of that podcast, is like, "You need to do your own podcast. We need to get in this lane," and so he kind of kicked me a few times to get into
Yeah.
that, and so, that's what started it off, but it's the goal of the podcast is to take a deeper look at the real parts of our life, but through a biblical lens. So I think, there's what I've found is that it's really, um, there's like a segregation or like a dissonance that sometimes happens between the church and the therapy world,
Mm.
or thinking about clinical constructs. And then there's this whole other place where we live in the middle, where it's like we have real things that are going on. And I fully believe that the scriptures are sufficient to speak to all of those things. And scripture says that we need to study to show ourselves approved, meaning we can actually read God's word and study it and walk with him through it, and he speaks to the things that are going on in our life.
Yep.
Scripture, it says that it is the discerner of our hearts, and it can actually divide us and show the parts of us that need to go. And so it's been such a blast for me because I get to take the things that I sit with people every day, and I get to carve out, like, 10 hours and, like, go, "Okay, what does the Bible say about anxiety or broken relationships or identity or, um, or something like," I don't know, I've covered 100 topics. Right now I'm
Yeah.
going through
I bet.
a series on the places we find ourselves, so thinking about what it's like to be in a season where you're in the wilderness or a dry season in the desert, things like that. So, it's been a blast. I have a few different lanes that I'm covering, like, I do spiritual formation stuff, emotional identity, and then I also cover, like, cultural things that are happening right now.
Yeah.
And then, I have a few, episodes where it's like I call them walking with episodes, where it's designed to help people walk with other people who are going through specific things. And this next year, I'm gonna do some new things. I'm gonna start doing some interviews with people that have, had some powerful testimonies of, uh, finding, uh, application of God's word in real life. So, yeah.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, and that, doing a podcast every single week. I mean, that's pretty impressive. I think Jesse and I were talking a while back too, like about the failure rate of podcasts, and we're finding what it takes to do a podcast episode every week. And it's a lot. But
It is
have
a lot.
you um have you seen or like gotten some feedback from people that have listened to the podcast? People that have reached out that it's been a blessing for them. I mean, what's some of the feedback you've gotten from it?
Yes, dude, it's been overwhelming, with the encouragement. I think, yeah, I don't actually look at the analytics a lot, but I got the year-end thing. It says we're in the top 15% of
Whoa.
podcasts, which
Wow.
is cool. I kinda had a great jump start because I had a podcast that was already doing really well say, "Hey, here's our friend podcast."
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
just
yeah.
hit the ground running, which is really cool. But yeah, people are coming out of the woodwork, and one of the coolest things is, people sharing, like, things they'd like for me to talk about, and that's just been fun for me because that's actually one of the hardest parts of doing it is like, "What the heck should I cover next?" You
Yeah.
know? And so, it's been fun to really hear real stories about, how it applied to their life or, what would be another topic to cover, and Yeah, that's really it's been fun to hear from people. People have emailed me and, also hit me up on social media and stuff like that too, which has been cool.
Yeah, no, that's amazing. Yeah, I really and I love I appreciate that perspective too. Interestingly enough, what not a lot of people probably know is, I went to graduate school. I got a master's in theology. And then I went and started a business and started a podcast about moshing and dads and stuff like that. And some people are like, "Oh, that's so weird." But I think, same with therapy. Like if therapy needs to be like there needs to be action in therapy. I just really walked away with this whole feeling of like, any like good theology is practical theology. What
Mm,
I learn and, what I believe and my faith, it doesn't really do anything unless I'm out there talking with people, meeting people where they're at, interacting with people. It's I think bringing it to a much more, I guess, practical level.
mhm,
And just being able
absolutely.
to be with people, share with people in their pain. And that's, I think, where Jesse and I and a lot of people in the hardcore community, like we come together because like if you're really into hardcore, I mean, some people have their lives together, but it's like if you're really into hardcore, there's probably something going on in your life where like you need to go like bump into people or go in a mosh
Yeah,
pit. And I think obviously you've experienced that with talking with kids after shows and stuff like that. Like we're all going through stuff, and I think just the ability to just have a platform like this, be at shows, get to meet people, and just be able to connect with people on that human level and just,
man.
get out of the high and lofty. And there's a place for that, and I know people that, they do a great job with that, but I think just get it more down to the street level and just be with
Totally.
people and love people. And yeah, I love it.
People are desperate for something real, you know?
Yeah.
And that's becoming more and more the case, right? Like, the
Oh,
more
yeah.
curated, the more formatted, the more branded everything is, people are just, like, over it, man. And
Yeah.
so to be able to offer an honest take, from a real person to another is
Yeah.
so refreshing, and it gives people permission to work through
Mm.
wherever they're at, you
Yeah.
know?
Yep.
Like, it's
That's good.
exhausting and intimidating to, you know, be honest with yourself in front of other people, when there's so much pressure or the culture is so filtered, and,
Yeah.
Yeah,
um,
exactly.
I think there's something there that people are they don't even know they want it, but when they see it, they're like it's like a cool drink of water, man. It's like,
For sure.
this is what I need, and that's what I think a lot of, I learned a lot from the Chariot, like, we were not clean cut by in any
Yeah.
way.
Yeah.
Like, our music was, not synthesized. I mean, we recorded one takes, and they were
Yep.
loud and noisy, and
Yep.
we did everything ourselves. It was
Yeah.
DIY, and it was messy, but it was one thing that we had was that it was real, you
Yes.
know?
Exactly.
It was honest, and people it was hard to even put my finger on it while it was happening, because it was out of kinda necessity, like, we couldn't afford to do anything else, you know?
Yeah, right, exactly. It
But
wasn't
it
like a novelty thing, it was like, "This is what we can do." Yeah.
Right, but it was great at the time 'cause in that era, there was so many bands that were coming out, and they just sounded the same, and they
Mhm.
were just everything was punched in, and, overly mastered, and so I really feel thankful that we got to stand in the gap there, but it really has, uh, affected my mentality on how I do everything, you
Mhm.
know? Like, it was such a formative time in my life. I was in my 20s, and so, on a daily basis, I'm influenced by what I learned in that short season of my life just to, do
Yeah.
things in an authentic way, and, yeah, I think that's what people need and want, and I think that's God's heart too. I mean, if you were no matter where you're coming from, if you were to meet Jesus and you were to walk with Jesus, just seeing how he lived his life, he
Yeah.
was the real deal, dude. He was as punk rock as they come, and
Yep.
I
Yeah.
love that. Like, I love that he was not a part of the bigger system. Well, he was part of the biggest system, right? But
Sure.
he wasn't, he was an outsider in a lot of regards and loved people really well, obviously.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Awesome. Well, um, Jonathan, this has been awesome. We certainly appreciate you making time. I know we've been planning this for a while, so appreciate you carving some time out. Before we let you go, I know I sent you a message last night and you sent me your answer.
heck yeah.
Um, Jesse and I are on a mission
That's right.
to curate the best Dads Who Mosh playlist. And so every single week we add a song to that playlist and we're just kind of like going at, as we go. And we would love to have your honorary addition to the Dads Who Mosh playlist. So I know you have it. Do you want to share what your song is and why you picked that song?
Yes. Well, I will preface it by saying, this is one of the coolest bands that I know.
All
Uh,
right.
I will say that because I've had the privilege to play with these dudes. And as a kid, I followed their other project, which I also loved.
Yep.
And so, my addition would be the band Advent, and the song anything off their Pain and Suffering EP
Yeah.
is, like, super legit. I love that whole I listen to it all the time. It's a daily listen for me. But the
Yeah.
first track, Wind from the Valley, it just makes you wanna kick something in the teeth, you
Oh,
know? And,
so good.
I just love it. I love those dudes. I love their heart. Their Old and Beloved was
Yep.
super influential for me. They're the real deal. They still are the real deal. And, yeah, I think it should be on any playlist.
I I messaged you too. I've been trying to get Joe to come on the podcast. I got to reach out to him again. I saw him at Furnace Fest last year, and we talked for a little bit. And he was on like another podcast that I had like years ago. But I to me, Advent is like one of the realest bands out there, and
Yep.
we could get into it. I know like the whole like rise and fall, especially like the Christian metalcore and hardcore scene and stuff like that. But I remember watching Advent play a pre-show at Furnace Fest, and then Stick to Your Guns came up and played, and everybody like Jesse from Stick to Your Guns was like, "We love Advent. We call them like the JCHC." I think just the fact that somebody could stay so true to their faith, to who they are, to their sound, and still garnish like so much respect from the scene. I
Absolutely.
think Advent those guys are just absolutely legendary. I don't think I broke my finger, but I jammed my finger really good during that set and during that song. So that's a
Dude.
great pick.
Yeah, I think they embody what we were just talking about. They've always valued their integrity and their belief over everything else,
Yeah,
and they're just, incredible, artists as
yeah,
well, and so the
Yeah.
combination of that, um, yeah, it's just solid. I always look forward to hearing if they're gonna be doing something, so,
yep, yep.
yeah.
Absolutely, great addition. Jesse, what do you got for us this week?
Yeah, this week, I was browsing through who we've already added because we've got a pretty good sized playlist.
We do.
And I realized we hadn't added any Knocked Loose yet,
That's
which
true.
just felt like we had to get something on there. So I put my favorite Knocked Loose song on there, Mistakes Like Fractures. It's one of their older ones. It's from the Blue album,
Yep.
the Different Shade of Blue.
Yeah, yeah,
But that song, like, it changes paces like 3 or 4 times throughout the
yeah,
song, It gets, like, real heavy, real two-steppy in the middle. It's just so much fun. I
yeah.
love it when they play that song live. I think they closed with that one last year at Sound and Fury, and, like, it just
Okay.
everyone went wild. It's just such a fun song. It's a non-skipper for me, so
Yeah, yeah. That's another good choice. Um, Mine because, just the Chariot was on my mind and I was thinking back to like, more, 2000s chaotic metalcore. I also kind of had a realization that we have yet to put an Every Time I Die song on this playlist too. And I feel like
Nice.
that's very like Dads Who Mush is
Oh,
like Every Time
Oh,
absolutely.
I Die. So,
absolutely.
um, my absolute favorite song from them, and I think to me, my favorite album that they put out was Low Teens, and my favorite song from that album was Map Change. I just like, it's just such a cool song. It's a little bit of a, a deviation from just like your typical hardcore mathcore song, but
Yeah.
it's such a cool song. And speaking of videos that I've watched over and over, when Warped Tour was supposed to be done, they closed their set out with that song. um and uh, Jordan Buckley, their guitar player, just played that last riff over and over. The rest of the band left, and it was just like he was just ringing out the end of Warped Tour, kind of. And I know they're back now, but like in
Yeah.
that moment, it captured Warped Tour so perfectly. That song was, and it was like right before Every Time I Die broke up too. And so, yeah, that's what I'm adding this week is Map Change by Every Time I Die. It's a
Sick.
killer song. Yeah.
I love it.
So
I'm excited to be in the loop on this playlist because I added it to mine. I'm really excited to
awesome.
jam it. Yeah, appreciate
Awesome.
that.
Awesome. Very cool. Well, Jonathan, thank you again, man. Very appreciative of your time.
Absolutely.
Thanks everybody for listening, and we'll catch you guys all next time.
Peace
All
out.
right.
All right.
Peace.
Cool.